Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Cash, and this is Weekly Recap. We're going to go over a week of me and my numbers of operating a truck in the United States. Go over a lot of things here. Going to talk about the loads I did, why I did them, all that good stuff. A few things I'm not going to talk about: my carrier, taxes, truck payment, truck insurance. You got to do all that on your own. That's research that you do. These numbers are not to brag, they're not to complain. It just is what it is. It's a 7-day period or less. This one happens to be a full 7 days of running. And yeah, did 2 loads this week, and I haven't done a weekly recap in a few weeks. I'm not trying to hide anything like that. I know, the naysayers and the haters always like to, say we only do the good weeks. No, I do all weeks. I think in the last 5 years, I've maybe skipped 2 or 3 weeks, and that's just because I got so far behind on doing them that, I try to stay up to date. When I get too far behind, I'll just skip ahead a little bit. Trying to keep it as relevant as possible. But sometimes I get behind. Sometimes life takes over. Right now in trucking is one of those times where it is hard to do these and commit the time to it because I've been trucking more. Rates don't aren't as good right now, so keep the same amount of revenue. I have to truck more, and that's just where we're at here in mid to late 2024. The trucking market's not that great. We got a lot of real issues at hand, and I just been trucking more, and more family time, more trucking time equals less YouTube time. And that brings me to my other point of YouTube's becoming very demotivating for me here lately. I look at YouTube like a business. I run it like a business, and I'm here to make money. Okay, I want to make the best videos possible. I want to help as many people as possible, but at the same time, I got a family to look after and to provide for. And when YouTube ain't paying me to make videos, I'm not going to spend the time to make the YouTube videos. So hopefully the economy gets better in the fourth quarter, and maybe late third quarter, fourth quarter we get a better economy, and a lot of these things will fix themselves. Um, but that's where I'm at right now. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you do enjoy this kind of content, be sure to smash that like button. If you make it all the way to the end and you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. So I got everything wrote down here. Let me fold this paper so I ain't looking at last week's. Put. I'm so cheap. I put 2 weeks on one piece of paper. Just what you got to do. So the first load, big load on the week right here. It went Minnesota, 2 stops Ohio, 2 stops Pennsylvania, 2 stops Virginia, with 2 pickups in Minnesota. So this was a 2-pick, 6-drop load. It was a big one. It was a banger. And that load was 38 empty miles, 1,244 loaded miles, and it was 22,000 pounds, negative 10 degrees, and that load paid $6,400. So not a bad load. I wish I could get more of these, but I don't know if it was special circumstance or what. I just don't get as many of these as I used to. I used to do a lot of these loads for this customer out of Minnesota, but it just ain't there anymore like it used to be. So that was a great load. I know they had it priced a little higher than normal because it had some questionable delivery dates on it. And you know how these multi stops go if you do them. If you get behind on one stop or one stop screws you over, you could be in a real bad position. Like, when you're multi stop, if the first or second or third stop of 6 messes you up, you might have to wait for reschedules. So there's risk involved with multi-stop. Multi-stop should pay more. You know, don't get caught up on the rate per mile on multi-stop either. I like to do my multi-stop more on a day rate. I give you a day of me doing, a legal day for, X amount of dollars. Now, I don't always control that, but I won't do it for less than a certain amount because at some point, rate per mile don't matter. If you're doing 50 miles a day, who cares if it pays $3 a mile? You ain't making nothing at that. So that's how I look at it. And again, everything in this video is my opinion and it's how I operate. I'm not suggesting you operate in that manner in any way. I'm just telling you this is food for thought. This is how I do it. If you watch this and you think, well, I want to become an owner operator, please don't just take my word for it. Do research, look at as many owner operators that give legitimate, decent information as you can. Gather that information before you become an owner operator. And it's like if 20 successful people are saying I do things this way, that might be a good way to do it. Just saying, but you take a little bit from this guy and a little bit from that guy. I mean, that's how I am. I took a little bit from business owners I've known along the way and kind of put it all together, and this is where I ended up. So that load was heavy on tolls. I will say this: going from Ohio to Pennsylvania to Virginia, and the way the load and the stops were lined out, I couldn't really dodge the tolls. I kind of had to just eat all those tolls. So $286 on tolls on that one, mind you. That was a lot. And then I emptied out in Virginia, and then I bounced down and got a load in Virginia. Now it was a ways away, 182 empty miles I deadheaded to go get this load. And that load was 182 empty miles, as I said, 584 miles loaded, 766 total, and that load was Virginia to Georgia. So basically, like the southern, like Chesapeake Bay area. I don't know what you call it. Chesapeake, Virginia. Is it Chesapeake or Chesapeake Bay? I think the town's actually called Chesapeake. I could be wrong on that. Went down there, grabbed a load that was going down to Atlanta. I needed to get into Georgia for my next load that's not on this week. That big multi-stop load was like 5-6 days I spent on that, and then got unloaded. Went over the next morning, reloaded, overnight run, like 1 day run down to Georgia. Um, and that was 38,000 pounds, negative 10 degrees on that one as well. So we stayed frozen all week long, and it shows up in the reefer fuel. $1,100 on that load. So them Virginia loads they're rough these days. I mean, I'm just going to be honest about it. I need some real money to go to Virginia these days because they want you to pull those mountains for free coming out of there. You know, I was back in Virginia since I did this week. I was back down there a week or two later, and I was like, you know what? I can come back to Ohio and get the same amount of money from Ohio to Minnesota as I can from Virginia to Minnesota. So I don't know how you guys think of that. It's like, do I want to pull a full load across the mountains for an extra 150, $200? Probably not. If they're paying 1750 out of Virginia and I can come back to Ohio and get one for 1600, I'm like, let's save the bearings in the bottom end of the engine. Let's save the emission system, because you know how it is when you pull in them mountains, you are burning some fuel, and that's where the emission system gets worn out. So that load from Virginia down to Georgia was one I kind of needed. I had agreed to go do this load out of Georgia. So basically, this was just a load board, fill in. That's typically how I get loads off the load board, is when I need a fill in load. I don't like all my loads coming off the load board. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I ain't saying you can't run a business that way, but normally this is where I find my load board loads, is when I need a fill in or a go between. And them Virginias, man, they hurt. But I guess overall that ain't a horrible rate at 1100 according to the market. Now it's a pretty crap rate for trucking, but with the market and you know, I don't set the rate. I can disagree on a rate and not pull the freight, but I will just be honest with you. If it gets me out of a bad area, typically I will take a market rate. It's just what it is. Now, like I say, depends on lots of factors. There's no blanket statement for me in trucking. Like a lot of people won't take $1 a mile out of Florida. There's times where I will take $1 a mile out of Florida. A lot of people say leave that freight, blah blah blah, whatever. Hey, sometimes $1 a mile to get you down the road is, get you down the road. Now, I'm not pulling no reefer load for $1 a mile, but if I can get me a lightweight partial load that pays for the fuel, I might run that because I'm gonna be running it for free anyway. And it just depends. Like I say, it's all just opinion based. You run your business how you feel a business should be run, and I'll run the way I run mine. And that's usually how it works out. I'm gonna do what I want to do anyway. So that was the 2 loads for the week. Minnesota to Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, then Virginia to Georgia. That wrapped up a full 7 days. Them multi stops, man, they can be a little rough sometimes. You pick it up on a Friday, and then the first stop ain't till Monday, and then by the time you do 2 stops a day, you've stretched 5-6 days out of a week doing that. So pretty good week overall, though. I'll take it. Gross revenue between what I and my carrier combined made. That's gross revenue to me. What we produced, the total revenue, $7,500. My cut of that, my 80%, $6,000 there. All miles, pretty good. All miles, 2,048 all miles. So pretty low mile week. Again, if you're doing multi-stop, you can't really go by the rate per mile, because the rate per mile on this week looks fantastic. And it was. But, you know, 2,000 mile week, where normally I'd be 2,500, 2,800, you know, on this kind of revenue. So it just depends, if the load's available, I'd rather do a more logistical type load like this. But if it ain't there, it ain't there. You got to run the one pick, one drop, and make the money. So, as the Dart advertisement always said, it's about the miles, which I don't feel that way. I feel like it's about the money. Let's talk money. 220 empty miles, that's 10.7% deadhead for the week. It's about on par, that's kind of my average. I feel when you're mixing in spot market loads and this, that, and the other, about 10% is justifiable to me. 1828 on the loaded miles. Now let's talk about rates per mile. Again, big multi-stop load. Um, you know, so it's going to be a good rate per mile. So we got 366 all miles. Every mile the truck turned to me $3.66. My 80% of that is $2.93 a mile, and the loaded miles was amazing at $4.10 a loaded mile, $4.10 a loaded mile. Now let's talk about them variable cost. Okay, um, variable cost for the week. I spent $12.50 on diesel. And here we go again with the multi-stop. I want to just be as honest as I can about it. When you run multi-stop loads, you will not get as good a fuel economy, mainly because you're going to be starting and stopping your truck a lot, or you should. You shouldn't leave it running at the shipper or receiver, right? But you got to build air pressure a lot. You got to build air pressure. You got to get out. You got to slide tandems. Lots of little things where you're just going to accrue more idle time on a multi-stop load. It's just the facts of it. And, for the educational purposes, I want to make sure everybody understands how it works. And not one thing in trucking is without pros and cons. You know what I mean? Like, some people say, I do this kind of trucking because of this. But then I'm like, well, it's also has negatives, it's so you will use a little bit more fuel on a multi-stop load. It's just the facts of it. 280 on reefer fuel. Keeping that thing frozen all week was getting expensive at 280 on reefer fuel. $42 on DEF fluids. $289 total on toll roads. Like I said, just had to eat it and do it because, really, you pay the tolls or you pay for fuel going around the way this was lined up and laid out. So, just what it is. $14 on cat scales. Yes, cat scales have went up again. We're talking $14 for a weigh, $4 for a reweigh now. If you hadn't weighed a truck in a couple weeks, they've went up another 50 cents a piece. So it gets real expensive. Not super expensive, but it's just like everything else. It just keeps going up. But where's the rates at, huh? Where's my discretionary fund for stuff like that? Dwindling. That's where it's at. It is what it is. 1875 total veritable cost. We bring over the $6,000 of revenue to the truck minus the 1875, and that leaves me 4125. I threw 400 of that over to the maintenance account. May bump that maintenance account up a little bit, just with things, everything getting more expensive. I might have to start putting more money in the maintenance account, which is kind of a bummer because there again, more money out, not as much money in. Good weeks like this are really what are keeping me going right now. A lot of average weeks, a lot of like close to break even weeks. So a good profitable week goes a long way because there's just things you got to buy that are big ticket items, and let's be honest about it. So through the 400 to maintenance account, that leaves me 3725 left to do what I have to do with. And what a week! That's 61 cents per mile fuel cost. So if you want to save on fuel, ES Advantage ad coming soon. Thanks everybody for watching. I much appreciate it. If you made it this far, be sure to hit that subscribe button for me. Go leave me a comment of some sort. Love reading comments. Trying to get back in the YouTube rhythm. Thanks, everybody. Take care of each other out there. Remember, people are more important than trucking. Hi, I want to talk to you real quick about the ES Advantage card. Do you need discounts at major truck stop chains? They got them. Do you need discount on shop rates at TA and Love's? They got them. Tire discounts. They even got health insurance now. Click the link down below. Easy application, no credit check. Sign up. They give you a call back. They'll take all your information and you'll be in the network.